Our Point is a 2004 released South Korean psychological horror film directed by Kong Soo Chang.
We'll just pause there briefly. Sorry to interrupt, other me. Just to let you know, this is one that we recorded back last October when we were doing a month of Ghosts. Unfortunately, things happening in real life stopped us getting it uploaded and finishing it off. But now we've got a bit more time. We've managed to complete it, so we've uploaded it for your viewing pleasure.
Great. Do you want to unpause it?
Set in 1972 during the Vietnam War, the film opens with a radio transmission that's received on a South Korean base, which seems to be from a platoon that has been missing for the last 6 months. Lieutenant Choi and 8 others are tasked with heading to their last known position, which is the titular R point, to try and rescue them or find out what happened, find some sort of evidence of this missing platoon. As soon as they arrive, the area has sort of an ominous feeling to it. They come across an engraving on some rocks that tells them the area actually used to be a lake. Sort of 100 years previous, the Chinese massacred a load of Vietnamese and threw them in the lake and then filled it in and then built a temple on top. And they miss another bit on the engraving, which sort of is like a warning to stay away, basically. They set up base in an abandoned hotel. Strange things begin to happen, and all the soldiers, they start to question their own sanity and the sanity of each other as well.
Yeah, so this is our final Halloween-esque film. I mean, it's nothing to do with Halloween, this film, but we've obviously been doing a month of ghostly films, and this one may have some ghostly things going on in it and other strange things. But yeah, so Halloween is upon us. Hence my lovely, is that my Halloween t-shirt there?
It's very nice.
My girlfriend gave it to me because it's perfect, because I used obviously the cool shade smiley face a lot. That's kind of my go-to smiley face. But of course this is a Halloween version of it, a pumpkin version of it. I love it. It's a great t-shirt. Our Point. I noticed actually your disc is the Tartan Asia Extreme from many years back. And I had a lot of those, but I'd never even heard of this one.
No. And it's kind of, a bit of a forgotten one. It doesn't get talked about. There's a lot of Asian horror from Japan and South Korea.
Yeah.
Like The Ring and The Eye and Dark Water and The Grudge.
Yeah, I mean, tons of... I went through, I suppose, early 2000s, which would be my early 20s. Yeah, I watched a lot of the kind of tartan... Asian extreme films, never saw this one, never heard of this one.
No, it doesn't really get spoken about much.
I recognised the cover, so I probably had seen it, but I never saw the film itself, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Really atmospheric. That was kind of what I really got from it. It was strangely atmospheric. I didn't really know what was going on. For much of it, there was a lot. It's one of these kind of films you've got an ensemble cast. You're not quite sure who each person is.
No, there is a bit of that. Yeah,
there's a bit of that.
Some of them don't get fleshed out very much.
Very much, no. But that didn't affect the film negatively for me, because it is so atmospheric, and that kind of almost the confusion helped for me. I don't think it was supposed to be confusing, but if it was. And I found it confusing, that didn't bother me, because I kind of it added to the oddness of the piece and this kind of strange atmosphere of the piece as well. But I don't know really anything about it myself.
No, I mean it's kind of, I've seen it quoted as being sort of Apocalypse Now crossed with Blair Witch. Predator as well, quoted
Predator's
in there as well.
In there as well.
So yeah, I mean it's obviously similarities with.
I found the thing. To me, it reminded me of the thing. There's a sequence near the end where they start, without giving any spoilers. I mean, there's something kind of going on in there where they're trying to work out who's maybe real and who's maybe not real. Should we say that? But there was a sequence where they're kind of essentially asking people to tell them their name and their rank. Which reminded me a little bit of the scene in The Thing where they're
testing the blood.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of the thing. Obviously, men getting caught together in an isolated place. So there's definitely, and The Thing is one of my favourite horror films ever made. So there was definitely nods to that in there. I think that was it. It was kind of nods to other films, very subtle nods to other. I mean, even The Great Escape with Steve McQueen with the baseball bouncing against the wall. There's a bit of that in there as well.
I mean, I guess it's not completely dissimilar to a lot of the films I mentioned earlier, well, all the sort of ghostly Japanese and South Korean films. I mean, there's a lot of them. I don't know what it is about ghosts, but they do. I guess they're just big in sort of Japanese or just Asian culture, I guess. Oftentimes the theme is, the ghost or ghosts that are doing the haunting have been wronged in some way, in life. And obviously in this, there was a slaughter of many Vietnamese and, just unceremoniously dumped in a lake, which is, leaves angry spirits behind, I guess. So anyone that dies there, is kind of trapped there, I guess. Not completely dissimilar to many other films around the same time, but a sort of slightly different take on it with the setting and the location. Usually it's just a normal suburban house with creepy stuff going on, but setting it in wartime is slightly different, and the location as well, which is a real building called Boko, I'm not sure, Hill Station, which was constructed in the 1920s for French colonists as like a sort of luxury hotel. Been abandoned for many years. I think now they might be redeveloping it, but when this was made, obviously it was still run down and abandoned. But it makes for quite a creepy setting.
Yeah,
it's quite a large, ominous building, and particularly when they discover it, it's sort of, they camp for the night out in the open, and then they wake up and the sort of mist clears, and this big ominous building is there. Yeah, that definitely helps with the sort of creepy atmosphere going on, and it's it's misty and murky all the time, and then they find the temple that was built on top of this lake, and it's all crumbling, and there's incense burning there all the time, which obviously none of them have put there, so somebody's put it there, but there doesn't appear to be anybody else there for miles around. There's radio transmissions that come from French soldiers that are apparently nearby, but again, there's not supposed to be anyone for miles around. So there's all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff going on. It's quite a slow burn, I would say. It takes a while to sort of get going.
Yeah.
And like you say, some of the characters aren't particularly fleshed out, so it's you get a bit confused over who's who at some points.
But even that, I mean, that's kind of within the story as well, because at one point, it's suggested that, which is quite clever actually, that one of them, so they're essentially looking for this platoon of soldiers that have gone missing 6 months previously. So of course that straight away that's strange in itself. Who's going to survive all that time? I suppose it could happen if you're captured by the enemy, of course. Yeah. Then so they get to this place, and then you're kind of suggested that one of the soldiers that is with them maybe is from that platoon, and at that point you're like, okay, is this guy a ghost? So straight away you're dealing with you start with 9 men, and then there's suddenly another one there. So straight away it's almost supposed to be confusing because you're not sure. Because
then you're thinking, because they say his name, and you think, well, which soldier was that? And then they can't remember his face either, and then they're sort of recalling when they were at the, when they were at the dock. They take a photograph when they arrive, but they have to take I don't know if this place is on an island or anyway. They get a boat there anyway. Was he there on the dock? And they said no, he wasn't there, but he was there on the beach when we arrived. You've watched the scene at the dock and you've watched the scene at the beach. But and then you're thinking, did I see this guy? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. When was he? And it's almost supposed to be confusing, but it also is confusing as well. There's also another, because they start, they start to not trust each other.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that, which is also like the thing too. There's that too, and you're not sure who's on your side or who's on their side. Who's on lots of things that's going on. But I really enjoyed it. It's got a really great soundtrack. I thought it was doing some really interesting things with the music. I just really like the atmosphere of it. There's some quite strange. You're right. It is a slow burn. There's some quite. It's just there was one shot which I really liked, and I went back because I thought it was just a great shot. He sees, so there's one of the soldiers, and he kind of goes out. They're all moving towards. I think they go out searching. They split into groups at one point, and they'll go off searching. And one of them gets left behind. There's a lot of toilet going on in this film.
There is.
They go to the toilet a lot. There's a very funny scene where they're kind of the three of them like squatting, going to the loo. But yeah, there's many shots of them off going going to the toilet. And there's one guy, he goes off to the loo, and he turns around to join his mates, and they've all kind of vanished. So he starts, he's got going through the undergrowth with his machine gun, and he's doing, as they do in these films. And then he finds them again, and they're kind of walking very slowly through the undergrowth, through this field. And then they stop, and he stops. And then they all kind of slink down into the grass, but completely vanish. And then he lies down as well, and then a few moments later he kind of pops his head up, and they don't get it. But as they go down, they literally vanish into the grass. It's a very clever shot, and it's quite creepy as well. And because it's slow, and the camera just holds from behind, it's effective, and I really like that. And I liked it so much. Like I said, I went back just to watch it again because where do they go? And they literally just disappear. And it's not like a CGI shot.
No.
But
presumably they just roll into holes or something
like that.
Yeah.
But it's a very clever shot, and it's just I really enjoyed that, and I think that's what I really liked about this film was its atmosphere and its look. Apart from just a few niggles, I really enjoyed it. It was good fun.
I wouldn't say the creepiness, because often these films are quite creepy, but I wouldn't say it's on a par with things like The Ring or the Grudge.
No, not at all.
But no, definitely. If you like that sort of those sort of ghostly films, then this is definitely in that ballpark.
It's not. At no time did I found. I remember watching The Ring for the first time. I will never forget that moment. Obviously this is the original one. Because I remember watching the film itself is like. Because I think someone lent it to me and they were like, "You have got to watch this film. It's probably the most terrified film we've ever seen." And I watched the film itself. And I was like, "What is it? There's moments there, and it's like it's not that scary." And then of course that scene comes, that famous scene, and I fucking. I nearly, I lost it at that point. I've never, I was talking about The Exorcist The Exorcist is an unsettling experience the whole way through, with a couple of moments which the visuals I just don't like. But yeah, I'm sure many people watch The Ring for the first time, and that scene is utterly, you can't watch it again. It doesn't work the second time, but that first time you watch it, I was literally backing up in my sofa because it was so terrifying. But this film, it doesn't have anything like that in there, certainly, and I don't think it's not trying to have anything like that in there either. But obviously, we're doing a film of a month of ghostly films, and this is a ghostly film, but it's not a scary ghostly film at all. No. I don't think. But yeah, for me, it was the atmospherics and the visuals and the look of it, and there's some quite funny moments. I think it's obviously a group of soldiers out. They don't want to be there.
No,
they just they'd rather a lot of them just want to go home, or they they're done with their.
Well, I think they're sort of encouraged to go by the fact that they will, once that mission's over, they get to go home, they won't have to go on a boat. They'll get on a plane.
Exactly.
So yeah, they're all. That's why they sort of sign up for it.
And if you've seen many war films over the years, it's got that feeling. It's a bunch of guys going out and being soldiers, and
they've got a bit of bravado at first, but that rapidly evaporates.
Very, very much so. Yeah. No, so, I really enjoyed it. So we have it on DVD, like I said. You've got the old Tarzan Asian Extreme there.
Quite some time ago. It's got a few features on it, some interviews, a commentary as well, I think. I think that one of them, they talk about how they tried to make it as authentic as possible by having real military equipment and stuff like that. The only problem was first of all, it was difficult to get some of it through customs out of South Korea and into Cambodia. And second of all, a lot of it was very heavy. So the actors, and it was really hot where they were filming it. So the actors were exhausted. But the only Blu-ray I could find was a German one, which unfortunately only has German subtitles. So unless you speak Korean or German, you're out of luck. I don't know what the Blu-ray looks like. Probably better than this. I thought, because there's a lot of green.
There's a lot of
being
green.
out sort of the fields and jungles and stuff. It gets a bit murky, and a lot of the even during the day it's quite murky and misty. It could do with a bit of higher resolution to sort of make that clearer. I think it would benefit from that. The DVD was. Struggled with that some of the time. It just looked a bit of a green soupy mess.
Yeah.
in some shots. But it's still watchable. Probably looks a lot better on Blu-ray, I would imagine.
Yeah, I can see it being looking really good on Blu-ray. Actually, I think you're right. It's heavily green, not just because obviously they're out in the countryside and their uniforms.
Yeah.
But there's lots of it's misty, so it all that green blends together, which is it's effective. Again, like I said, the atmosphere and the look of it is really interesting. It feels quite low. It doesn't feel that low budget, but there's a sense of low budgetness about it.
I think he used a lot of practical effects, which shows.
I really enjoyed it. Again, it was making me think while I was watching. We've obviously done a month of ghost films. Why ghost films why ghosts in literature and cinema history tend to be female. There was obviously but this one I thought was interesting because although there is possibly a female apparition as well in this film, a lot of them are also soldiers, so there are male ghosts here as well, which is something you tend not to see in ghostly supernatural films. It tends to always be women, which I guess I don't know is the long hair and the
flowing dress
dress is quite a creepy image, isn't it? But men die too, so
yes.
But it's so this is quite nice, and especially being a war setting. You tend not to find. I've always been a bit iffy with horror films set during the war because I find war is horrific enough. I'm not a fan of there aren't many, but I'm not really a fan of the zombie genre anyway. But when you get zombies in during the war. I'm just like, well, you don't need that because it
doesn't need
horrific.
To be made any more horrific. No.
But ghosts, you tend not ghosts in war films. You don't often see, but it's an interesting one. So for that, I thought it was really interesting for that. I enjoyed that because the amount of people that did die during the war. There are many tales you could tell about kind of ghostly things happening, and I really enjoyed it. So that was our point, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Hit the subscribe button up there and don't forget to push the bell for notifications. There's other videos to check out over there. Come and find us on social media and join us again soon for another video.